everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tube, or welcome back. This is your 10th Matlock Season 2 episode review. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe out there in the bigger world. I did want to apologize again for the delay. I think once finally this gets posted, tomorrow the next episode comes out, which I won't be able to watch live. I apologize. Eventually we will be back on our usual cadences, just right now, which is things going on. I can't really watch these episodes live, so I do apologize for any sort of delays. I apologize for that, and honestly, again, after I talked about it 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago, yeah, like the way we ended the mid-season return of Matlock, and then ending that episode was like, I'm so excited. I'm so locked in. I'm ready to see what's next, and I'm like, yeah, this episode delivers. It's the perfect, well, not perfect, it's the right follow-up episode we needed before we really get back into the plot. Obviously, we wrap it up last time with Julian finds out Maddie's true identity. She finds out she is the true, I guess, real quest mastermind of this whole thing. And now, what is his reaction? What do we see come of it? And as a result, how does this now this trio that knows the truth, how are they handling this discovery? And honestly, again, I think they did a phenomenal job with this week's episode. And, just the case of the week, setting up what could potentially be a new recurring. And at the same time, trying to connect everything back to the first season again. I think it worked out really well done, to speak. And honestly, again, like they're back. They're fully back. I'm like really invested. And I'm really excited to see where does this new alliance go? Where does Maddie's relationship with Julian lie? And where, at the end of the day, where are the true allegiances? Because eventually, 6 episodes left on the board. I really don't see this being pushed out to season 3. I expect this storyline to be done in this season. How do we end that? Where do we kind of have the kickoff point to season 3? And now that we kind of have we're getting there. We're getting a much more firmer understanding, and I'm very excited by the prospect of it. But with all that being said, let's go through the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Matlock. So we begin where we leave off last week. Obviously, Julian is completely shocked, thrown for a loop. Maddie is actually Madeline Kingston. Olympia appears. Again, the two of them kind of give the lowdown of what Julian has missed in the last, I think we're 38 episodes. Obviously, he's kind of taken aback. He immediately thinks Maddie's a psychopath, doesn't believe bullshit. I'm like, well, he does believe the reality of it, but of course, obviously, Maddie switches from Julian's involvement in the matter to being the personal mission of my daughter died because of opioid, and had you not taken the study out of discovery, had you not put it God knows where it was, that my daughter may have a better chance of being here right now. And obviously Julian's like, look, her death has nothing to do with me. Again, is it Julian trying to separate himself from the involvement? Because there's a whole argument about it of of that sort of thing, of the chain of events and all that sort. But when it comes to Julian himself, he is very much like, yeah, no, I am not responsible for it, and he leaves. He is kind of probably on the idea of teaming up, trying to obviously Olympia kind of paints the picture of look, I managed to convince Maddie to focus the attention off you to Senior, who is the true mastermind of all this. So if you help us out and get us what we need, we might be able to put an end to this and get justice for all the people that died from opioids. And they kind of fill them in on where they're at in the investigation. Obviously Julian is kind of taking it in, not only did my ex-wife team up with this lady to team up against my dad, at the same time, they've been doing all this secret uncovering sort of BS. And now he's still taking it back to the whole thing. And obviously he needs some time to kind of reel in from this. Imagine a person you thought you knew was someone you could potentially trust, and then all of a sudden they turn out to be a whole completely different person. You need time to kind of re-accept the truth of the matter. It's not something that's 1, 2, 3 type of thing. But yeah, but sadly, Maddie does not get the apology that Olympia promised her. I swear, once you put him in the moment, you're going to get the apology. And she did not. So obviously that's holding her back. Obviously, Maddie now has to, be in this weird, well, Julia knows, the investigation continues, but I don't have my apology. So I'm like, I'm really gonna limit my time with this man because if I'm there any second longer than I have to be, I kind of just want to punch him in the face. Um, Somewhere on the other end where Julian is still like not accepting responsibility. He's not going to apologize to Maddie. He can still be an ally to them. He could still, help them out with the matter to, even though like it's his own father, at least get him hung for this. That's as far as he's going to go. But sort of a real apology to Maddie is off the table right now. And Olivia is still trying to plead with him, but they kind of focus back on like, what Julian can offer. Julian knows that like, okay, well, my dad wouldn't put the Australia trip on the Breck stuff because maybe it's something that was going to be off the book. So, but obviously, at the time, people still use travel agents, so probability is that his personal travel agent probably has it. The problem is that they might be able to kind of ring up the discovery of like who the other two people were in the soapbox of the theater that presumably Senior made the negotiated like we gotta get rid of the study ASAP, no matter what. So I believe from there, that's when both Olympia gets a text, and same with Maddie from I believe Sarah. Apparently, Billy has decided to take the severance package. It is not clear to his reasonings of it. Again, this is a very shocking turn of events. Again, like the reality of it is like, and this will probably be my last time talking about the whole, there have been some new development in the actual real life allegations and the accusations, and and I'll say it wholeheartedly. This will be the last time. I might mention again when we do the reviews, like the season 2 reviews down the road. But for this particular moment, this will be the last time I'll talk about in an episode by episode basis. The storyline they were writing, it just unequivocally like it worked out that hey, we have a perfect escape tool for the character. It just happened to work out. And, that probably the original plan was Billy was going to fight back. He was going to be a morally, weaker person. And then he's going to have a whole big development where like he's going to come back out of this even stronger than ever. Obviously he took a different path where, this, in a real world sense, like, no, I don't blame the character for like, not wanting to like go back to work. It's like the one that he thought he was going to be the mother of his child needs him right now. They lost a child. They lost someone that could have been a beautiful formation of them. And it definitely takes a little bit of time to kind of like, move past it, so to speak. It takes time to be able to like, kind of go through the, the processes of grieving. And obviously, there's a merger on the way and like, the money could be helpful, and as he finds a different path and like go back at his own pace. I understand that from a character perspective, and I think that was it made sense. We didn't need too much explanation. Like they're like by the time we get to the next scene, Sarah's like, I talked about it with Billy, I understand it, and this is the right moment to like to separate the team. Obviously you and Olympia got your own thing going. I'm now on Team Julian, and Billy needs his family, so I'm like, this is the perfect time for this to happen. And again, it makes sense in universe. Obviously, from the reality perspective, it just happened to write it off. And I think this is just the way to do it. Obviously, there's still going to be a whole legal proceeding on the back end of this. Again, they conducted an investigation. It was found to be factual. And it made sense of the matter. And it's always the blaming game, of course. Again, in reality, as a viewer and part of the larger audience base, we may never know what truly happened, 100% the exact details of it. But again, in reality of it, investigation was done offsite. It was proven to be, this is what happened, and they took action to it. That is commendable to doing so. At the end of the day, it's about safety of the people on the show. You can't really put someone in an environment that is going to cause harm. Again, people like it's the same thing like with a regular job. You want to go to a place that is, at least the most accepting possible so that you can thrive and that you can be safe because you're spending 40 hours plus at a workplace. This is the same cadence. If someone doesn't fit that mold, if someone is causing distress in the larger community, they have to be let go or they have to be reprimanded for it. And again, they did the correct proceeding, and I commend and I applaud them for doing that. How this exactly ends up to work on legal matter, we will see. But until then, c'est la vie. That's a wrap on Billy's character. And we move forward from there. And as a result, they bring in someone new. They bring in a new team member because obviously Bailey's gone and Sarah's moved over officially to Julian's team. They're still going to be sharing the same office space for junior lawyers, but um, they do need someone on Olympia and Maddie's team that's beyond the scope, and they hire he was in the floater pool, which means that they kind of jump around teams whenever they're needed. They don't have a permanent home. And obviously Olympia picked him out, and as soon as we meet him, he's a total bro, which um I guess he's still like a guy. Like, I never even understood the terminology when I was that age, so I'm like, I don't know 100%. He's just like being chill, being one with the flow, so to speak, like a tranquil mind. Very nice, very sweet dude. He's just, got his own way of doing things. Which again, Sarah originally takes to the point like, yeah, Olympia and I are going to be totally screwed on this. Maybe even subvertly, maybe they'll invite me back to the team, maybe. And even she goes to like snitch on them on Julian, and Julian's like, oh, okay, like a little bit of like, yeah, get a little bit of taste of their own medicine. But obviously besides that, he still is, he knows what he's doing. He knows his worth, even though it's not like a style that not everyone might agree with. He's still doing the workload, and it still makes sense for it. The case of the week is a home attendant is being charged with potentially killing the person she was caring for. The expectation is that she may have accidentally given him the wrong medication. He's allergic to certain things. He had an adverse reaction that led to his passing. The sister of the deceased is suing her. And obviously she's claiming that that wasn't her. Like, she cared for the man, that she had no malicious intent to. She has nothing to gain from it. And so that's kind of where they're playing at right now. And before we even go from that, we have another returning season 1 character we haven't seen in a while. Shay, played by Yale Goborius. I apologies if I butchered it. From Jane the Virgin, Pantheon's character. She's back in town because she did do the whole shabu in Texas. Sadly, she has been on a losing streak recently, so she is putting herself on Team Olympia because she knows, like, okay, Team Olympia 9 out of 10 is a win. If I can get a win for this team, that would definitely bolster my chances. Obviously, with the merger coming about, they need winners, they need investors, they need people that are going to return on investment for the firm, and Shay needs to be on a winning team for once, so she's here to volunteer her support on it. And again, Olympia has not really much choice. It's all hands on deck. And even Maddie Gilster is like, yeah, not every time you got to work with someone that you really, don't want to work with. And obviously Olympia's like, I see what you did there. So I believe from there, we assess the case as me. Obviously, Shay's thinking from a jury perspective, trying to get the sympathy votes, trying to like be as much in distress as possible to allow for the possibility for some moral acceptance from the jury. And obviously Olympia agrees with that, but she's going to take it a step forward. So when we're not only going to do that, we're going to prove that you are innocent, that this is something else completely different. We're going to find a way to, get you off the hook with this one. So I believe from there, during this meeting, we also find out, the dude is not really much of a note taker. He's more like a mental note taker, which I'm like, it has his benefits and it doesn't have his benefits. Eventually, once they kind of regroup in the office and getting ready for their first day in court, Julian comes in. He does get a little bit of an update. He did find the identifiers for the 2 other people that were in the soapbox with Senior and his lady friend at the time that night. They were, I believe, higher ups in the Welbrecht's group, and since then the 2 have been divorced. They are no longer together, but the person is a member of a recovering addicts group, and she is 5 years strong, and she is currently doing not recovery 80 meetings at a local church that they can go into, infiltrate, and just try to get the lowdown, see if they can find out any other details about the matter. Obviously Maddie is first to go, and Julian's like, I'm the one who found out all about this, I'm the one who deserves to get out on it. And Maddie's like, you know what, we'll both go together, because you know what, I have the best angle on this, and you can reap the results of your work. So they agree to go together on the matter of itself. When we get to the court, they're arguing for the matter with the sister at present, trying to, propose some, invalidity of the sister's claims, which Shay does pick up on. There's a bit of falsification in her statement, so definitely that's something that they could use to like kind of broach into potentially gaining the swing vote from the jury. And even the new lawyer even pitches to the idea of like, well, maybe there's another medication, because I was speaking to someone that knew them all, and she was saying like, yeah, no, there was a, there was some activity going around. There's a medication thrown in there, that the sister uses, so it could be possible maybe he got access to that, and that's what led to his death. So they order a new tox screening to confirm that presence, and if they are able to get a confirmation, that would be boom. That's the solution right there. I believe from there we go over what do we go from there? Yeah, I believe from there, Maddie and Julian go to the church. Immediately, they're getting their roles ready. Maddie kind of puts them in this place, like, remember, this is, regardless of what we're doing, this is still a place where people are recovering. They're doing their damn best. Don't do anything that discourages their progress. You'll need more heads on your body. They go inside, ready to go. Things seem fine, and then the specific woman that they're after goes to Julian, knowing who he is, and immediately requests for him to leave. Obviously, her saying like, I seen your face on the Christmas cards. I know you are a lawyer. I know you are very much someone that is with them, and I know my husband is like, in the process of renegotiating our divorce agreement, so I don't want you here. This is kind of shady. Immediately, Maddie kind of pivots to like, oh no, I'm a sponsor. He is a recovery addict too, and that's when Julie comes up with the story of like, he did drugs a lot of the time when he was younger, and he would mostly be out of it during those photos, and he would be photoshopped in, and of that report, he had a long road recovery, and now he's in a good place right now with his life, and he's just trying to get there. And obviously, she apologizes, saying, "I'm sorry for the accusations. I just had a very bad history with, especially with lawyers from your father's firm and everything." And before they can really get into some more meat on the matter, the meeting begins. I believe at the time, the thing, the meeting ends well. Julian's a little bit, enthralled, like, oh my god, I did an undercover thing and it worked out. And then Maddie kind of gets mad over him because, like, oh, so you knew about addicts? He's like, yeah, no, when I was in college and law school, like, I had a roommate that was an addict, and sadly he passed away over the whole thing. And Maddie again gets mad about it for a legitimate reason, like, so you knew how addiction works, yet you still partaked in getting rid of the study that could have ended a line of addiction. I see. I think Julian doesn't understand it word from her at the time period, but by the time Maddie goes home to I forgot his name already. Damn it. To Edwin about it. Edwin's like, he understands Maddie's point, but at the same time, like, you can't really put too much of the hanging on him. Obviously, you might get an apology out of him eventually, but what is that going to really do for us? Like, our daughter's still dead. We're never going to get her back, and he's still fighting over it. But he's made peace with the fact that no matter how this investigation ends, no matter how it turns out for them, there is no way they're getting their daughter back. Alfie will not get his mother back. It's done. That's a done deal. They're just like looking to the end of this, and then that's it. They're not going to be expecting their daughter back, and Maddie should be doing the same. And Maddie's like, I'm not ready for that. This is my process of grieving. This is my process of acceptance. And this man who is still responsible for it still needs to pay for it, no matter what anyone says about it. And even Julian calls Olympia, like, of his frustrations, like, this isn't how it's gonna work. Like, Maddie gets mad at me if I don't understand. If I do understand, like, it's not a win-win scenario. So why should I fake it just to appease someone that is clearly not going to feel the same way out of it? Sarah briefly overhears it, wants to help out, and of course Julian dismisses her because, like, she can't be involved in this matter right now. I believe the next day comes around, the talks report that the order does come back in, and sadly it does not prove anything officially, but there is another trace of another substance in there, which is a wintergreen substance, which matches apparently a homemade remedy that their client uses. So when they question her about it, she does admit, yeah, I mean, a homemade bath bomb. It's very convenient. It's soothing to the patients. It helps clean them up, and it's a win-win, apparently. And she's been spreading the recipe throughout her different peers. Apparently, it has a chemical reaction that does cause the issue that the deceased did have. So there is a probability, because they just proved in the tox report matter, that this is an accumulative matter, that over time it may not be an instant reaction, but like the more you absorb and the less often you get time to wean it off, it could eventually kill you. So even if it's like a super low dose for the amount of time she's been doing it for him, it would lead into his potential death, which is what happened. So yes, she is responsible for his death. And obviously, once this gets turned into discovery, once it falls into the matter, of course, the prosecutor is going to use this like, see, she did it. She was the one who killed him. But now Shay's like, we're focusing our attention now to getting jury appeasement. If we can make the jury believe you had no idea you were doing this, this was a non-malicious matter. It's like, we can maybe get this thrown out, and obviously Olympia agrees, but like we're also going to still proceed with a correct matter of like we're going to do this correctly. We're not going to like sugarcoat this around just for the sake of like winning the case. Maddie and Julia decided it would be best for Julian not to participate anymore with the meetings, and Maddie will go in one more time to see if she can get one more thing out of her. And thankfully, she's like, she was very receptive to the idea. She's like, yes, I felt very apologetic towards my attitude towards him. I had no real means to like accuse him of everything. It's just like with everything that happened, with everything over there, like I really needed I wasn't really in the right place for it, but I would love to, talk about it some more. Maybe this will help me get a little bit more closure on that part of my life. And obviously Maddie agrees to it, to get that out of her. And when she does, when they talk about it, yeah, like she knows about everything about about her husband and about everything that has gone out about it. That there is a little bit more to play on that. She doesn't really get too much more information about it, but definitely for the ex-wife, it definitely was a sense of closure that what she needed out of that. I believe, where do we go from here? I'm trying to remember 100%. I believe we do go back to the court case. The house attendant does speak about the matter. She does admit that, I guess, I did technically kill him, but again, I had no malicious intent to do so. This was, unapologetic. This is something that I didn't really meant for happening, and I will forever live with that for the rest of my life. But I still loved him. I still cared for him, and I never wanted to cause harm on him. And the sad notion of play is just that it is what it is by that point, and that all she's gonna do is like live the rest of her life with that mistake. I believe we'll come back to that momentarily. I do know, like, eventually Julian has enough of Maddie's, she does know Maddie went independent to talk to the ex-wife, and she tells Olympia about it. It's like, you know what, I'm just going to talk to her straight up right now. There really is no other way to sugarcoat this about my frustrations with her. So he goes back up to Westchester. That's where he meets Alfie again for the first time since they met at the firm. Obviously Alfie knows everything about Julian, so he is very aware yeah, no, your actions led to my mom dying. So yeah, I'm not happy with you. I'm not gonna say anything to you. I'm not gonna yell at you. But the fact that you're looking at the face of the person that invariably got to where a loved one went to, in this case deceased, he gives him the cold stare, and I'm like, yeah, of course. If someone I knew that passed away and I found the person that was kind of responsible for it, I may not do anything physical, but I will definitely tell him, you are dead to me. I don't give a fuck about your opinion. You are dead to me. And that's what Alfie's giving to Julian. And again, we just had a scene where Julian and Olympia are talking about with their kids about life and death, and that, yeah, grandpa might be on, recovery door, but it could have been a different way. And at the end of the day, they tell him, look, we never know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know. We can't promise you that we're going to live forever. There's going to be, we have a beginning to our life and we have an end to our life. But at least for this time being, we can promise you that, we are still going to be around from a health perspective. There's nothing wrong with us right now. We're still going to be your parents for the thick and thin of it. And that's kind of was the encouragement also that Julian needed to kind of be pushed of having the conversation with Maddie about, everything of the sort. And I also remember, because of that scene also prior, Shay did go to Julian about maybe talking about her job of well, if Senior's going to be back on the helm soon, then maybe I'll be safe. He'll vouch for me, and I'll still have a job. I'll still have employment. But we'll come back to that scene momentarily. Then we come back to the house where Julian, after Alfie leaves his eyesight, he kind of realizes shit, I am responsible for that. This boy doesn't have his mom because I took away that study, that I listened to my father, and I I took that away from him. I took his mother away from him. And even though, like, again, he still has a point. It wasn't Julian's direct fault that she got addicted and she killed herself because of it. But if he had not done the research removal and had put that on the record, that wouldn't have been on the market, and that wouldn't have led to that chain of events. And he feels responsible now for it. So he cries in the middle of the stairway. And and this is where my questionability came into play. It's like, is he really faking it? Is he trying to play a new angle on Maddie? I don't know. It seemed genuine. I really don't 100% know, to be honest with you. But the scene that follows, where like he does apologize to Maddie, like the whole thing, and Maddie doesn't say a word to him. Even though she got the apology, it kind of like, it's like, I go back to The Last of Us Part 2, where like I know people were very divisive on that game and the story that game told. That would Ellie killing the person that took away someone important to her? I'm keeping it vague because, like, maybe people haven't played the game and it still being adapted to the TV show. I won't spoil it, but will getting what you want, will that accomplish anything? Will that really give you the peace you deserve? It won't. Because at the end of the day, the person is gone. You won't get some sort of sense of accomplishment. You won't, because the action is done. It won't. And I think Maddie is finally turning the code of like, I got the apology, but it doesn't give me my daughter back. She's still gone. And Alfie still without a mother. It is what it is there, and that's not going to change. Then we cut to the next day where the jury comes back. They delivered, and thankfully she is found out guilty. Everyone celebrates. It's a great win for everyone. Maddie and Olympia gives their kudos to their visiting floater, just to let him know, like, look, you did a great job. We apologize that we kind of underestimated you and that it all worked out to be. And we would love for you to work on another trial coming up. And he's like, cool, I would love to. I would love for us to have our own handshake. And I'm like, will this bro really be the replacement we need? The new character? I'd be down for it. It's not something I'm like totally clamoring for, but you know what? I could see him being a good click for the group. I could see it. But yeah, so the case is done. The case is won. Sarah kind of watches this all for the distance when Julian comes in, and this is and I completely forgot there was a scene where Sarah blows up on the new lawyer because he was kind of being very nonchalant about his work ethic, about his work style. Obviously, it's coming straight from like Billy to him, like it's a complete 9-day turn. And Sarah does miss Billy. And then when she talks to Julian about it, it's like, yeah, no, I just miss my work family. We had this whole episode at the end of last season, the beginning of this season, where like, yeah, Maddie and Olympia are not on good terms with each other. And, like, even if it's been less than a year, like, you build that camaraderie, you build that relationship with people that you can't really replicate elsewhere, where you have these people like depending on you, you have people that rely on you too, and it kind of builds a very healthy work culture. And yeah, even she's spouting like potential future storylines for her, like, I might even look for my real birth parents, and that might be a whole nother thing I gotta look forward to. But at the end of the day, it's very much like something that she needs to work through, and like, maybe she'll get back to that point like someday, maybe not. But at the end of the day, this is part of her development. It's part of like, just life. And Julian is like, I know, but I think I can't give you that same energy Olympia and Maddie gave to you, but I could definitely give you a new shoulder to like lean upon. And, that potential we can form our own trust like you had with them. And maybe down the road we can be a family too. But, it does take time. It does really take time on it. Then I believe from there, Julian, Maddie, and Olympia do coincide in, I guess, the Brownstone. They talk about like where they're at. The Maddie comes back. Julian takes a little bit extra time, but apparently, after their late night meetup, not like that, last night, apparently Julian got a call from Shay, and that's when Julian admits like, yeah, she was pretty close with the Brexit team at the time, and Maddie's like, oh really? Because I know you two had a good side thing going as well. And that's when Maddie, yeah, I know, but you're a fair. And Julian's like, yeah. And then from there, yeah. So Maddie's like, hey, you got that relationship with her. Why not, potentially use that up? Maybe she still has feelings for you. Maybe she still has a good level camaraderie for you, and maybe that could be enough to like get her to like admit to something. You never know. And they're talking about it, and that's when Shay admits during like their second meeting, which is where Julian was running late for. Apparently, there was a secret code system they used to use, so like they would abbreviate the states to like LA, LV would be Las Vegas, MI would be Missouri, and the last three digits would be the zip code, so that they would know like okay, this is what we're talking about. And they realized that like some of the documents they were able to procure from an earlier mission had those codes. And they found out that the research study came from a place, I believe in Michigan or Missouri or somewhere near Las Vegas, Montana. I believe it's Montana. Is it Montana? I forgot. But near the West Coast. And there was also a statement where, like, they were in the process of buying out a selective research facility to bury them, essentially, to make sure that their work never sees the light again, which turns out to be this specific firm that did the study. So if they can get the scientists to be the whistleblower to get them back on the record, this might be what they need to get Senior on the hook for it, and that's their next step in development. And even Olympia's a little happy. Like, oh, you and Julian doing your own side thing. I see. Maybe this is a good sign that you two will be working together. And obviously, Matt's like, chill. Just for the case. Just for the case. But the three are finally on the same term and paper. And hopefully, now they just need to find that scientist and hopefully get him to come back. And that's where we leave off this episode of Matlock. Like I said at the top, I thought this episode was really, really well done. Not just from Maddie and Julian's perspective, but Sarah kind of having to accept moving on. Having to like accept that the old regime, the old things of how things used to be are over, and it's a hard pill to swallow. I believe for Maddie and Julie, they both needed this development to kind of like push them for Julian accepting responsibility, and Maddie kind of having to like begin to let go of the revenge of like the justice. Like it's not going to give you the same value that you were expecting when you originally started this. And now that they're all working together, they have all the pieces in place. Now they can start to like really make some really big headway on taking down Senior. Shay coming back in, like bringing up the merger time and time again. I do believe now more than ever it's going to be a big factor into season 3. That might be the shake-up factor that we're waiting for, like to get new people in, to get some old people out. I think it will be a very interesting turn. But having Shay back on the board here, having her contribute again. Obviously again, I love Jane the Virgin. Veterans, I would love to see more of them, pop up. There's still a pretty handful amount of people that I would love to see, including a very powerful telenovela actor that I would love to see back on this. I would love to, please, for the love of God, Jenny, we gotta get damn, I forgot his name. He played Rogelio. I forgot his name, sadly. We gotta get him on the show. We gotta. That's just like it's got. We've already got his manager / ex-wife on the show. We could definitely get him on there. We I think he's got some limited availability. We gotta get him on there. But seeing her back was great, and then Sarah. Obviously Billy's officially gone. I don't think we'll ever get a Billy mention again on the show. But yes, him being gone officially. Now Sarah is kind of like, being left out. Honestly, I think everyone had that feeling where like when you had a work family, when you had a work team, and then as time goes on, people leave the team and you kind of have to be stuck in this new reality. I've been stuck in it plenty of times and it never gets easier. It never does. Like, you get so acquainted with a group of people and then it doesn't work out or it doesn't last forever. Nothing lasts forever. You're always going to have new people on your team. You're always going to have new people to kind of have a back and forth with. And as a result of it, that's how it works out to be. And, we're just in the middle of that right now, for Sarah. And, hopefully her and Julian can have a really great bond as we progress through. It does seem like, I don't think Sarah will ever come back to Olympia's team anytime soon, but definitely, I think they're setting the tee up for her and Julian to have their own, like, work relationship. And I really look forward to seeing how that's going to turn out to be. But honestly, again, I really thought this was a really fantastic episode, a great follow-up to last week's episode, and I can't really wait to see when I do eventually come back to things like how do we progress from there? How do we really follow up on that? But that will be something we'll see hopefully very soon. But with all that being said, I'm giving this episode 2 thumbs up. Let me know down below what you think of this week's episode, or at least this episode of Matlock. Did you love it? Did you like it? Let me know down below. I would love to have a conversation with you about it. But I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So you're unaware this has been What's the Two from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the second season of Matlock. If you want to do what we're doing normally, What's the Two, besides our Matlock episode reviews. Right now we have rookie episode reviews coming out each and every week after brand new episodes on ABC. But if you only care about Matlock, we will be back with another episode review Hopefully next week. I believe, yeah, we'll be back next week on it, but it'll just be, well, one of these weeks we will have 2 episode reviews in one just to get back to the cadence of it. So stay tuned until that. But again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, like, favorite, share if you want to. Ring that bell and follow social media for updates for future videos. But until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.